Hello and welcome to Weird Around Illinois. Today we're going to talk about something that we've touched on in a lot of other podcasts, but we haven't really delved into in depth, and that is the concept of portals. Let's get weird. So I guess we should start by talking about what exactly is a portal. I mean, to me it's like a doorway, like a gap between that'll get you from one area to another.
And it could be like time portals, as you mentioned in the past.
Yeah. So what do you think a portal looks like?
Well, the ideal thing is that, there's a weird blue or like magical outline of it, and then like you could see through it of what new area it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just walk through it and you're magically in a different place.
I call that the city on the edge of forever model, because that's where I first saw that in the Star Trek episode, The City on the Edge of Forever, when they stepped through the time portal and they could actually like watch to see what was happening on the other side and just step in when they wanted to.
I usually think of them as like invisible, so you just can't see them at all. Like any creature could come out of nowhere.
It's almost like you walk in a certain place, like in a certain spot, and then you suddenly get teleported without doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen a couple different types of portals represented. I mean, to me, I always pictured a portal as a swirling vortex. Like it looks like stepping into a hurricane or something. And again, pop culture reference, I'd probably get that from the movie The Final Countdown, like an old 80s movie where a ship sailed through a time portal, and it basically looked like going into a hurricane. But, people have described portals as being mirrors. People have literally stepped into a mirror or stepped into a picture.
Now it's a scene straight from the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like put your arm in the mirror.
When I think of mirror, I think of ghosts. Like portals possibly ghosts travel through.
Okay.
That's what I've heard.
I like you, I've heard of the invisible portals and portals in other objects, not mirrors. Like sometimes, people talk about being able to hold a certain object and it'll transport them to another time and place. So needless to say, there are a lot of different types of portals and a lot of different looks of portals. But in terms of how the portals function, I mean, the first thing you really need to look at is how are they created? I mean, do they just exist? Or are they created by something? Or do they randomly pop up? I mean, what do you guys think?
Kind of the idea that they're just naturally created for some reason. There are, I wouldn't say it's a theory, but it's more of an internet kind of thing. It's just the idea of it's just a portal would be a gateway that nobody really expects to go in, and you just get teleported out of nowhere and you wouldn't expect it.
I think it really depends on what's coming out of it, because it could be cryptids, it could be UFOs or aliens. So it really depends, because if it's aliens, maybe they're just creating it.
Like through some superior technology?
Yeah.
Okay. If it's cryptids, I guess you could still make the argument that it's created by aliens through superior technology and they're unleashing cryptids on us. But
Yeah.
the other possibility I know we talked about with Dogman is the fact that he might have some sort of innate ability to create a portal through the mist, which is another look of portal we didn't talk about. But maybe he was just born with that ability to wish himself to be somewhere and create the portal and end up there.
Yeah, it's certainly a magical ability, and I'm not sure we have the information to really comprehend how these things are truly being created.
Now, I have talked to people who, I don't know if they claim to create portals or if they claim to be able to find portals for the purposes of astral projection. That's when your mind and your spirit travel without your body. So your body would just be sitting here, but your consciousness would travel somewhere else. And rather than having to, get out and fly halfway across the world, this person claimed to seek out natural portals where their soul could slip through and pop up where they wanted to go. We'll probably do a podcast about one of those soon, because I was actually given the location of one of them. I've experienced some weirdness there myself, but the whole idea of being able to create a portal or the portal just kind of existing or the portal being attached to an object, I mean, is it possible that all three exist?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, rather than like maybe a cryptid or some kind created these kind of portals for many other beings. They're all connected in some way.
And someone creates a portal, does it stay or does it disappear when they're done with it?
I don't know. I've heard theories that portals actually like move, specifically for cryptids at least. It's possible that their portals like move, so they could go to different places.
Oh, so like Dogman wouldn't create a new portal every time he travels. He's got like one personal portal that he just brings with him wherever he goes.
Right.
Okay.
Now it'd have to be just advanced technology though, wouldn't it? If it's like a portable portal.
Unless it's part of his biological makeup. I mean, what if the portal is like part of his brain? What if he's just able to project it at will whenever he wants to?
Yeah, a very advanced type of function.
So that leads us to the other question. We've talked about it a little bit, but where do these portals go? The obvious one that comes to mind is distant places. You know, someone could step through a portal here and end up coming out of the portal in India or China or South America or something.
Small pieces of evidence showing that.
For cryptids, at least, I'm at least guessing these portals probably come in like the forest a lot.
Yeah.
They probably just, I don't know, go to the forest, and that's why so many people see them from their cars.
And then, of course, the next place that people theorize that portals go to is another dimension. You know, is there another dimension somewhere that's full of aliens and ghosts and cryptids, and they're just popping out of that periodically to come and, you know, say hi to us and then disappearing again?
Yeah, is it the ancient civilization that we keep hearing about that's been underground or something like that, and they just keep teleporting in and out?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, if you follow the hollow earth theory, and I just learned today that, you know, the hollow earth theory isn't necessarily that the entire earth is hollow, but yet there's pockets of the earth that are hollow, and there are like civilizations built in that. And, you know, I'm sure both theories apply, but I don't know. I found that one a little bit more palatable, that the idea that there's large portions of the earth that have, you know, open pockets under it where you could have another society living.
Yeah, almost like an ant farm. They're just digging through, and they're just undiscovered caves.
Yeah, I've heard theories like that, where there's like tunnels or caves underground that they could be living in.
Right. And portals would be a great way to travel in and out of that.
Yeah.
But although, you know, to play devil's advocate, if you're coming from underground, you could also create the illusion that you're traveling through a portal very easily. If you just suddenly pop up somewhere or disappear somewhere as if by magic, but in fact you're coming through a trapdoor in the ground or something.
Yeah,
True.
it would be pretty hard to pull off without being noticed, but it's
Not if there was a mist.
not if there was a mist. That's fair point.
Other dimensions, we could be talking about different dimensions in space. We could be talking about other worlds. We could be talking about dimensions in time, which, you know, is my favorite dimensional theory. That, you know, what if these things coming through the portals aren't coming from another place, but they're coming from another time? You know, maybe there was a time when Bigfoots and dogmen roamed freely throughout the entire world, and they're stepping through the portal into our time. Maybe that's why every now and then somebody sees a pterodactyl, or somebody claims to see a woolly mammoth or a dinosaur. You know, maybe something just wanders through a portal every now and then.
Yeah, and for the Bigfoot, maybe he's the last of the species, and the Bigfoot is just traveling through time constantly.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Maybe looking for a safe place to start over.
Yeah.
And a lot of these cryptids are seen like around burial grounds.
True.
So that could explain like why they come there.
Yeah.
Just to seek out the history again. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they're looking for relatives, you know, family members or something.
Maybe.
And that could explain the ghosts as well. And I know we talked about that on one of our ghost podcasts, but, you know, what if ghosts aren't spirits as much as they are time travelers? You know, what if we're seeing a ghostly image of somebody from our past, or somebody from our future, or somebody from the past of a certain place or the future of a certain place, and we're just seeing their essence coming through at that moment, and they're not able to fully form as a human being, but, you know, their consciousness is able to travel through time in that moment to see us.
Reminds me of Star Wars.
Oh yeah, like the Luke Skywalker projection thing.
Yeah. Or like Yoda.
Oh yeah.
we could take it a step further. That could be a projection of some similar character that we may be familiar with, but from a different version of time.
Oh yeah, like an alternate reality kind of thing.
Yeah, like a branch of it in a different reality. That's right.
Like you could even be visited by yourself if you made the decision to have cornflakes this morning instead of oatmeal.
Yeah. I'd go into a different dimension just to tell myself, don't eat the cornflakes.
Yeah. The other thing we would talk about, or we could talk about, and we talked a little bit about it, who uses these portals? I mean, we've talked extensively about cryptids. We mentioned aliens a little bit, but ghosts and shadow people certainly, I think, are potential portal users. I think that could explain why some areas are, quote, haunted. I think there could be a portal there.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the few theories I could think of where they could end up in your house or something.
Yeah, and we've known people who've experienced that, where that there are parts of their house that just seem to transmit that energy more, and things come through that area more easily.
Yeah, objects, mirrors, it could be in like very small ways or like big ways where you could literally see the figure. It just comes in very different ways.
Portals are a very easy explanation for why ghosts, cryptids, and aliens disappear so easily. The first question everybody always asks, when somebody says they saw something, it's like, okay, well, where is it now? How come it didn't stay long enough for you to take a picture?
It's almost like the number one explanation one might use. I mean, if something magically disappears randomly, you're gonna say, oh, it must have jumped through a portal.
Right.
Well, especially for cryptids, because it's like, yeah, they could hide behind trees, but if you're just not gonna see it at all, it's more likely that it went through a portal.
Mm-hmm.
It's unexplainable.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you got people looking for them with things like thermal cameras and infrared detectors and game cameras set up all over the place. I mean, we've seen on the Bigfoot shows, there are times when they see something very clearly on the thermal, and then it's gone, and there's nowhere for it to have gone to. If you look around, they've got camera traps all over the place, and maybe there's a stream or a cliff or something, and they still, it manages to completely disappear without anyone ever seeing it.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this before, but I think people have seen like tracks, especially the dogman, and they just suddenly disappear.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and Bigfoot too. I mean, if Bigfoot tracks didn't suddenly disappear, we'd have found Bigfoot by now.
Yeah, good point.
Because I mean, there was that one that Cliff from Finding Bigfoot always talks about, like the 112 tracks or something.
Yeah.
If you've got that many tracks, you should have Bigfoot. You just follow them. The problem is that they all end in nothingness.
Yeah, it's an empty trail, and I don't think there's any way they could like fully track them.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, and again, portal is an easy explanation. Now, one thing that came to my mind is, do you think people use portals? Do you think there are people right now who step through a portal and travel through time or space or whatever?
I would not say intentionally.
Okay.
Bermuda Triangle, whatever weird iceberg you might think of at first. In all those times, it's never intentional. They may go missing. They may come back and start their mission to investigate something big. It never seems like they meant to get into that mess.
Honestly, I haven't heard enough reports of this kind of stuff to have an opinion about it.
Well, let me throw another question at you then. Do you think it's possible that you've ever traveled through a portal and didn't know it?
It's possible that we could have forgotten about it. I mean, the human memory is very vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's one thing for sure.
I think of times when I've taken long drives, and I suddenly look up and I'm like, where'd that last 40 miles go? We shouldn't be this far yet. And it's rare, but it's happened a time or two to me. And maybe I was just daydreaming and didn't realize we went that far. But I also think about like when we were in Minnesota and we were lost in the woods. How do we know that we didn't step through a portal and end up 100 feet 200 feet, half a mile away from where we originally were.
I felt like we did.
I did too. That's why I bring it up.
That was one of the most mysterious investigations we ever went on.
Yeah.
Because it was just unexplainable how we got so lost.
Yeah, because I mean, we're pretty intelligent, aware people, and we kind of, it was broad daylight, and you know, it's not like we were in the deep woods. There were trails, and I thought we were following our tracks pretty well, going back the way we came, and we were nowhere near where we came.
Yeah, we were miles away.
Yeah, so that was, I'm glad you felt the same way I did, because that certainly felt like a portal experience to me.
Yeah. And I don't know, this could be why some coincidences happen. I don't know if there's a strong link, but you never know.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, though, that going back to the Minnesota place, supposedly there were Indian burial mounds in that park.
Yeah.
And there were dogman sightings in that area. And it makes you wonder, if you start getting close to a cryptid, do they send you through a portal? Is that why people sometimes report the confusion and getting lost in the woods, and you know, they don't know, they lose 2 hours of time and they don't know how?
So they quite literally send you for a loop.
Yes.
I've heard when people see cryptids, sometimes their time goes like faster.
Right.
Actually slower, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know why.
Yeah, what if that Bigfoot and Mothman and Dogman have the ability to actually send us into a portal as a defensive mechanism?
Yeah, or almost in a trance to where we forget where we were, and then we just go the wrong direction, and it goes downhill from there.
Yeah, that's possible too. It's interesting how many different ways these portals might be used if they exist. I think most paranormal investigators believe they do exist, because they're so intrinsically linked to things like ghosts and aliens and cryptids. It's almost like if you accept the existence of these other things, you have to accept the existence of portals, because they're the best explanation for how these other things move.
Yeah.
Well, that's our thoughts on it, and we would love to hear your thoughts on it. If you've ever experienced traveling through a portal, or if you've ever seen something else travel through a portal, or if you believe you've contacted an object that might be a portal, we'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for listening.